r/ask Reddit. What is it that you hate the most about the city or town that you live in? I live in Paris. I wish I wouldn't have to smell piss every day on my way to work. I live in Philadelphia. I also wish I wouldn't have to smell piss on my way to work. There's been at least twice I have walked to the next subway station because I couldn't bear the smell at my stop. I'm from Philly, and on my recent trip to Paris while in the subway I thought these smells remind me of home. Who are all the people secretly pissing in public? How much piss does there have to be for it to be the dominant smell in a big smelly city? The city of Philadelphia recently opened up a resource center for the homeless in Suburban Station. It gets rather full during the colder months and people piss right outside the entrance to the subway. Murder. Definitely the murder. Baltimore. Also drugs. Sorry, just finished watching The Wire. You never finish watching The Wire. True. You just keep watching over and over again. Just finished my 4th time in 3 years. I live near Washington, D.C. Everyone who hears this instantly starts talking about politics as if I personally visit the White House every evening. I hate talking politics, stop it. You didn't mention all of the people who aren't from here but move here for work and then suddenly feel ultra important and can't stop posturing. I have stopped telling people I live outside DC and instead just say I'm from Virginia for just this reason. No one ever has a follow-up to being from Virginia. But that's only because DC Maryland Nova folk already know what that means. Try living far away from here and saying you are from Virginia. People will not allow you to be anything but a gun-toting tobacco farmer. LA. I work in downtown and it gets very annoying when influencers and or people who just moved in get upset when you're in their way. I'm sorry I ruined your photo. I just want to get home. I work in downtown too and there's several locations right near me that are used for filming a ton. My colleague and I grabbed takeout and we were walking back to work chatting when we had to stop in our tracks because a couple was making out in front of us. Like, aggressively all over each other. We gave each other disgusted looks, but then both realized, oh, there's a dude with a camera and a lighting dude and a bunch of other trucks. I sincerely hope our creeped out faces made the final cut. You're going to show up in a MILF Hunter video. Oh no, not again. St. Petersburg, Russia. Weather. It's a 6 million city at the latitude of Anchorage, Alaska. There's shitty dirty snow everywhere from early November till late March or even April. I'll trade you semi-rural Australia. Too hot to leave the house for about 3-6 months of the year. And you pray like hell there's no power outages and your air conditioner doesn't burn out. You look out your window and see only death and despair. A barren dust bowl. What's the purpose of rural Australia? Anyway, is farming even feasible in that environment? I thought it was for kangaroos and dingoes. Potholes. Road work that takes forever. Combined with bad weather. Welcome to Montreal. Recently drove from Toronto to Montreal. It's insane how noticeably shitty the road infrastructure is once you cross into Quebec. It's like the government doesn't give a duck. No snow ice removal. And oh my god, the potholes. Taking an exit off the highway in Montreal is like a ducking video game set to hardest. Philadelphia. So much litter. God forbid it gets windy. Swirling garbage everywhere. I always debate on wearing goggles when it's super windy. The amount of street debris I get in my eyes is disturbing. Midwest this time of the year. Salt ducking everywhere. Also so many potholes that if you're driving straight, you may be drunk. Hello, I'm road salt. I help you drive around safely, but I also destroy your car in the process. Thanks. I have a beater as my winter car and a nicer beater as my good weather car. Potholes. Potholes everywhere. Columbus, Ohio. Earth. The moon actually. The streets were built in a time of horses and carriages, so they're really narrow and not straight. We have some intersections that are like the S-shaped Tetris piece. Listen, if a cow walked the path, it's a road. If 2 cows walked it, Mass Ave. I live in a fairly small rural town and I love it and wouldn't trade it for the world, but I do admit to missing the ability to go out for dinner later than 7 PM. I also miss options. It's really only the couple of pubs in town and that's it. There are more options if we pop over to one of the other surrounding towns, but that means a bit of a drive. I also miss going out for after dinner coffee. We used to do that a lot when we lived in the city. Totally not an option out here. We must live in the same place. They roll up the sidewalks at 5 p.m. I grew up on an island. Everything was closed by 8 p.m. Shops often would just close during the day because the owners would be off at the beach or pub, sports field, etc. I grew up in a small rural town. It pretty much shuts down completely at 9 p.m. You don't go out for after dinner coffee. Instead you go find a road that ends in a cornfield to drink Busch Light. I live in Plymouth, UK. A few days ago a suicidal man was stood on top of a multi-story car park. Large groups of people just stood around with their phones out recording it. One woman yelled at him, telling him to jump, and called him a coward while the emergency services tried to help him. People around her laughed. I really hate the people in my city. Whoa, that does sound awful. After all these other complaints, this takes a cake full of poo. I live here, a Six Flags and an outlet mall. The town is nothing but retail and chain restaurants. There is no downtown area outside all of that. Gnee. Ill? Yup. I can't leave. I didn't know Hotel California was a city. Hotel California 22,434. I live in Austin, Texas. Every allergen known to man seems to be here. Don't forget traffic that appears out of nowhere. You'll be moving right along on 35 outside of downtown when all of a sudden you're at a crawl for no reason whatsoever. In Orlando, that means you get to share the road with the following drivers: lost tourists who drive like shit in the first place, foreigners who drive like they're still in their homeland, yuppie a-holes who are the most important people in the world, gangsta wannabes who have seen Fast and Furious way too many times, and elderly retirees who should have had their licenses revoked long ago. We also have some of the highest car insurance rates in the US. Yes, same. And also people need to stop moving here and stop building storage units. Austin. Austin is known for keeping it weird and being a fun, cookie place. Recently, the whole place is being developed, and all of the places that the transplants move here for are being bulldozed for condos. The city is slowly getting unaffordable and losing the parts about it that are special. Everyone I know is getting scattered to the winds, and a lot of my favorite places to hang out have been closed. A lot of people chalk it up to progress, but I am terrified of becoming the next SF where regular people can't live in the city and rich people live like poor people. On top of everything, I am pretty sure we have whole neighborhoods of nothing but rentals, which makes the housing issue worse. The city is already insanely segregated. You can't live west at all unless you have money. Like the whole west side save a small strip. I visited Austin last year for a work conference. Great city. Got to eat some really good BBQ, watch the bats from the bridge, and do a little bar hopping on 6th Street. When I asked one of my Uber drivers about the city, he went on a long tirade about how the cost of living was skyrocketing and how the city was becoming the next San Fran. I heard the same sentiment later in a chat with someone else at the conference. Seems like everyone is echoing that feeling. I was kinda surprised, as I often thought that just about everywhere in Texas was very affordable to live. I live in a small city in the UK called Bath. We're one of the main tourist cities of the country and we have two of the top universities. But we're too small to accommodate so many people. It's always crowded, always expensive, and there aren't enough well-paying jobs for students or graduates to be able to afford to live here. Everything closes at 11 p.m. We have an insane amount of traffic, and literally one of the busiest roads in the nation. Massive drug problem. No police station. Only aiding the drug problem, and the worst clubs I've ever seen. But it's beautiful as duck, so UOB is great, but calling Bath Spa a top university is pushing it. Nashville, TN. It is getting way too expensive to live here. Your choices now for affordable housing is either Antioch, which is almost an hour drive, or Ashland City, which is backwoods good old boy country. It's a great city. No one is from here and the ones who are seem like they have PTSD. All sorts of issues are looming because of the population explosion. Amazon is coming. We gonna get wrecked. I live in southern Rhode Island and I just wish there were sidewalks anywhere. I like to walk and I don't want to have to walk on the narrow shoulder getting passed by cars going 50 miles per hour 2 feet away from me, but there are straight up no sidewalks anywhere, unless you get to the center of some of the bigger towns. Let me walk, goddammit. Phoenix, AZ. It's a dry heat. Just shut up about it already. People can't drive for shit. Major inferiority complex as a city. Too many old ass NIMBYs preventing progress. A city council that is a barely literate group of bickering children who only grow up long enough to give themselves a pay raise. Again. Old people complaining about the university and kids just doing what people do at that age. Good old London, Ontario. Charleston, South Carolina is overdeveloped, unaffordable and filled with idiots. Win lottery, move to Isle of Palms, become idiot. Atlanta traffic has to be the worst I've ever experienced or ever will. I was in Atlanta recently. It was my first time ever there, and I heard tell of the traffic before my trip. I dismissed the claims thinking it can't be worse than San Diego traffic. I was wrong. I'm from Atlanta and I've got a friend who moved here from San Diego. He says California drivers are clueless, but Atlanta drivers are aggressive and clueless. One time I was driving through Atlanta, never been before, and my dumbus was going like 75ish on the highway and was getting blown past by every single car including cops, only to later learn that everyone goes at least 90. Spokane, Washington. So much meth. Applies to every city I have lived in for last 10 years. The rent is goddamn too high. I swear next time I move I'll move to someplace like Leipzig in Germany or Pittsburgh in USA, that is. A reasonably sized city but without the ridiculous rents of a more popular / bigger one. The Mormon Church has far too much influence on the city-state government. I live in a moderately sized town in Maine. What drives me up a wall is how annoyingly comfortable these people are. It's almost as they feel they're entitled to everything. What's even crazier is if someone is minding their own business on the freeway and you go to pass them. That person will make it their mission to make sure you don't. Then once you do pass them they go back to the same speed they were before. Minneapolis is cold, but it's my home, and probably always will be. Toronto, 401. Enough said. The liquor store isn't open on Sundays. I live in Detroit. We do have our fair share of problems, and yes, there are very dangerous areas of Detroit that I won't go in unless I absolutely have to. But what I hate the most about living in Detroit is the view other people have of this city. It is not the crime-ridden dystopian wasteland nearly everyone else in the country thinks it is. It's a great city to live in as a young person. There's so much going on and so much energy in the city, and people here care about Detroit and its residents in a way I've never seen in another city. Everyone looks out for each other. I love this place and I hate hearing people who have never been here talk trash about us. San Diego. Haha, nah, just kidding. Seattle. Even with all the insanely expensive housing, the homeless, the traffic, the worst thing about Seattle is people turning whatever direction they want from whatever lane of traffic whenever they want. It's infuriating. I live in Chicago. The winter weather is brutal, especially this time of year when it's been 3+ months of cold and snow. I live in a very small town in very southern Georgia. People are friendly, yes, but it's seldom with a pure motive. Often the friendliness turns into nosiness and inappropriate questions. Extreme antiquated way of thinking with very closed minds. I have to always watch what I say. Education is not valued. People do not travel and have most often lived here their whole lives. This gives way to the idea that Georgia or America is the center of the universe. Distressed face vomiting. And the worst, racism. People of color are no less than persecuted here. Things are very segregated. People are proud of their racist beliefs. It is the norm for someone of color to be called a slur, even at their place of work. I am moving out of the state this summer. I've lived in Portland for 3 years and it's hardly believable that these two cities exist in the same world, let alone country. We're way overcrowded. We just absorbed the population of a nearby burned out town and a half. Housing is at a premium. Even before the fire the city was crowded and the council wanted to keep the small town city feel and never let new businesses or grocery stores get built in empty lots. So now we have no extra housing, crowded places to shop, and traffic is a nightmare, on top of all the extra homeless. I really feel bad for everyone who lost their homes and don't view them as a burden. But goodness, this city was not meant to have so many people. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.